Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson, World Alternative Media here, and of course we're joined by author and economic analyst here at WAM, John Sneisen. And as many of you may have noticed, the crypto market doesn't look too good. A lot of people are freaking out. I want to just tell you guys right here and now, before we get to the meat of this story, that this is an infant market. We are in Wild West territory still. We aren't to the extent, we don't have mass adoption yet. We don't I mean, in a lot of ways, it's good because most people don't understand the market. You don't want mass adoption when 99% of people don't know what cryptocurrencies are and how they work. But with that said, I want to get into what exactly is happening because we have seen the most volatility that we've seen since, the big dip earlier this year, and December 18th last year into January. This is a huge news story because this is, people aren't freaking out about the fact that, the stock market has wiped out all of its gains this year, but people are freaking out about the crypto market. It's all kind of a scripted game, but let me just tell you guys that the decentralized cryptocurrency market and decentralized blockchain infrastructure is going nowhere. This is just the beginning. This is just the beginning of a massive monetary revolution, a massive industry revolution. There's so much to go into here, but I do want to say that I called last December a $4,800 bottom for Bitcoin. We are seeing it climb below that, closer to my second bottom of 3,600, and then my third would be 2,800. There's many reasons for that, but overall, if we are, as I say this on November the 20th, it might take a day or two to get this video out due to a lot of craziness over here, where, Thanksgiving and all that kind of stuff, the usual stuff. It doesn't matter because the message will remain the same. We could see a massive rally up in the next few days. We could see a drop dramatically further because a lot of institutional investors flooded the market last year and propped the market up, and let's face it, it was overvalued. Nonetheless, I think it was almost like a testing of the waters. How much can you prop this thing up? What are the fees going to be? Let's see what the future looks like, kind of ordeal or situation. Well, now there's this article out of CNBC News that says, as Bitcoin nosedives, regulators said to be investigating whether it was propped up illegally. And as it goes into, as Bitcoin continued its downward slide Tuesday, U.S. regulators are reportedly looking into whether its record-breaking rally last year was the result of market manipulation. The U.S. Justice Department is investigating whether traders used Tether, a controversial cryptocurrency that founders say is backed by a 1-1 ratio by a U.S. dollar, to prop up Bitcoin, according to a report from Bloomberg News, which cited three people familiar with the matter. Of course, yeah, some guy that read into it briefly knows all about it, apparently. Tether and Bitfinex did not immediately respond to CNBC's request for comment. Federal prosecutors launched a criminal probe into the cryptocurrencies earlier this year, Bloomberg reported. But they now suspect that traders on crypto exchange Bitfinex might have been using Tether to coordinate Bitcoin's price move illegally, Bloomberg reported. So before I get into any more of this, I want to hand it over to John. But first, I just want to say Tether is not something that is safe. They audited themselves, quote unquote, and then in the fine print, they basically admitted that they just did the audit themselves. So just trust us, basically. Apparently, it was a good idea before the IRS tax code amendment on 10/30 earlier this year in January, where Tether could be used instead of the US dollar, so it wasn't a taxable event every time you traded in and out. However, that Tether likely doesn't exist. Likely. I mean, it could, and hey, if it does, great. But it's irrelevant now because it's a taxable event on every single trade of any cryptocurrencies now, according to the IRS. So it becomes kind of useless other than, trading in and out quickly, which you might as well, at this point, just do with the US dollar. Anyway, John, what do you think about this big leg down and what's coming next?
Well, I think we might actually go further down, Josh, because we're seeing a sell-off in all markets. I think we're on the verge of a big collapse here, because what we're seeing in the markets is that we're seeing a sell-off on all sides. We're seeing a sell-off in oil. We're seeing a sell-off all across the global stock markets. At the same time, there's no differences. Like, there's very few actually in the positive around the world. And then we're seeing little fluctuations in bonds. Nothing is really happening there. But I think this whole crisis and everything that you see in the sell-off, it actually trickled into cryptocurrencies because people are trying to, it looks like they're trying to cover losses almost. And some of these investors might have been in a lot of cryptos, and then they're trying to cover losses. I think that has somewhat to do with it, and it's definitely not all of it, as of course people have been waiting to get the price down to a further level, so actually you could buy in even deeper and at a better price of Bitcoin. But then I want to go quickly into, you were talking about Tether, Josh. Tether is such a scam to me because yeah, well, if you had the actual money one-to-one, and they claim they have that in this audit report, even if you had that in the audit report, they actually say that they have it on 2 different accounts, bank accounts, the whatever $1 billion they have currently in market cap. Let me quickly go and see. It's actually fallen drastically. I can't even find Tether now, Josh. Where the heck is Tether on
CoinMarketCap?
I'm trying to find it. I can't find it. Hold on. Oh, there's Tether.
As you look for it, it's dropped 10% now.
Yeah, the market cap is $1.76 billion. Now, if you have 2 bank accounts with half of that, you know, let's say $850 million on each account, that's still super risky. Who would have, in their greatest mind, understanding banking today, would have only 2 bank accounts covering this when you have only deposit insurance of $100,000? That is completely insane to me. You would only have if you get a bank run on one of those banks that they have deposited the money into, you would easily sit only with $200,000 left of that 1.7 billion. It's utterly insane.
I do want to say, John, that despite all these problems with Tether, I don't think that's a major reason why we're seeing a lot of what we're seeing, like CNBC is saying, because I feel like last year, a lot of institutional investors flooded the market to almost test the waters to see how much pressure it can hold and how high the fees are going to be, how useful it's going to be, all that kind of stuff. There's some good reasoning behind it, and the rest is shady, and a lot of people in the stock market and banks and governments flooding into it, because why wouldn't they, to have massive gains like we've never seen before in history. But also, I want to look at this thing. It's called the Fear and Greed Index for cryptocurrencies. And currently, it's in the red. It's at 21 on the scale. It's considered extreme fear it was at 23 at its bottom last month. But we're now at 21. We're getting, the closer to 1 we get, the more fear there is. And we've seen in the past that, you mentioned earlier that a lot of people are taking, money or profits out of cryptocurrencies, putting them into stocks and bonds or whatever, trying to, settle their losses. But at the same time, I feel like there's also the opposite momentum that can happen just as easily, where people pull out of their bonds, pull out of their stocks, pull out of the Forex trading and all that craziness, and put into cryptocurrencies, because we saw that last year, and that we could see a massive rally come out of this. I mean, this is what I've been waiting for. We've been trading sideways around 6,000 to 6,500 for months generally, and I mean, we haven't seen much momentum, and we knew that wasn't the bottom. I mean, when you're seeing it trade sideways for so long, obviously we don't have enough enough pressure in the market. When we're seeing it drop down to the levels that it's currently at, I mean, this is an incredible opportunity in my opinion. Everyone's freaking out. Half of South Korea has jumped off bridges. Sorry, I shouldn't say that, but it's true. And all the while, we have, this massively bearish market, which usually in most markets, in most cases, leads to a lot of opportunity to buy in low. And I think that that's exactly what's going to happen. There might be market manipulation pulling it down, as a matter of fact, and that could lead to people making huge gains out of this market. But again, this is all very risky, but the volatility does help in either direction. It shows that the market's alive and it's not dying a slow death at 6,000 to 6,500, just sitting there being completely impossible to trade. So anyway, John, we're gonna get further into this, but What do you think is the future over the next few months, in your opinion, for cryptocurrencies, considering the massive global debt levels, considering the massive derivatives bubbles, considering the bubbles that we see in the housing market, auto bubbles, pension bubbles, student loans, all that? Where do you think that this might lead going down the line?
Well, it's going exactly where you were talking about. I was actually going to mention that is you see the first sell-off and everything. It's very similar to 2007. Right before things started to get really bad, you saw a ton of volatility on the stock markets and everywhere, going up and down, both record lows and highs. And then what you'll see is people at one point, when they really understand that the panic is settling in, they know that there's going to be massive losses, they will try to run for safety. That's when Bitcoin, gold, and silver is going to come into place. When people actually are running in for the fire exits, trying to find anywhere safe to muster, and that would be, of course, gold and silver, precious metals, and cryptocurrencies, as a lot of people are starting to understand that this is a separate asset class that doesn't really have anything to do with the banking system at all, because nothing is controlled through the system. So it's a very different system. It's also a finite resource that, of course, different types of cryptocurrencies have, where you can't print any more of them. There's a set amount that you always have.
Scarcity.
Scarcity, and so it's a great asset, Josh. It's I think the future is bright for Bitcoin, for a lot of different cryptocurrencies for the future that are decentralized. Remember that, not these centralized bankster coins like Ripple, and others that have come out.
Yeah, that's actually what I wanted to mention next, John, because I do want to actually see 95% of this market get wiped out, because 95% of it's terrible. But there's so many great cryptos and new innovations on this market that will change the world forever, replace banking, replace government with alternatives. But one thing I did want to mention was Ripple. You mentioned Ripple. I hate to say this, and it hurts me to say this, but I actually feel like Ripple is probably one of the most bullish digital currencies. And I say digital because I don't even think it's that cryptographic. I mean, it's not an original cryptocurrency, but I feel like Ripple going forward is likely one of the most bullish, and for all the wrong reasons, because the institutions are getting involved.
Because of greed, because of wanting more returns.
Yeah, like Swift payments as well. I mean, so for the short term, I think, like, if you're trading, and this is my opinion, do not take this as investment advice. If you're trading, Ripple is a great way to get a leg up, most likely, if you know what you're doing. But overall, you know what I find funny, John, is I've been getting called delusional for the last week. So people have been going, oh, what's happening with your crypto? Are you losing your shirt? And they're saying I'm delusional for believing that there's a future. I think they're delusional. If they actually believe that this market, this new, incredibly innovative market that is changing the world around us, giving Venezuelans a way to pay for food to feed their families, like with Dash, if people actually think that this market is over, that it's done, then they are the delusional ones. They need to take another look at themselves. They need to do some actual researching and educating themselves. This isn't the centrally planned cashless society that the governments are pushing on us, like China and India, where they're some of the worst when it comes to laws against cryptocurrencies in the world that are decentralized, because that threatens their system. Their system must go through banks. Their system must be wired into this massive global establishment that we warn about all the time. What do you think, John?
No, I totally think that is. I think what we're going to see is, we were talking about, of course, Dash, Bitcoin, and a couple others, Monero, and so on. But there's also the smart contract aspect to this as well, which is the Ethereum, the EOS blockchain that are coming in, which is the supply chain side of things, which is going to revolutionize the way we track, for example, everything that gets created through transportation and grocery
supply
stores.
management.
Yeah, the supply chain, which is amazing. That's going to be revolutionizing thing. And then, of course, it's coming into trading as well. this technology is not going to disappear, and that's what people that look at Bitcoin as just a currency and other cryptos as just a currency, they don't understand the actual underlying utility of a lot of these different currencies that are out there, on top of being currencies that some will at one point, of course, but there's the whole smart like Ethereum and EOS type of platforms that are out there that will revolutionize anything from we could get rid of most of the lawyers, most of the government. It's really gonna, if we use it right, it really is gonna take our world hopefully to a more free place. But the warning here is, if we use decentralized platforms of blockchain and the push out for 5G and the Internet of Things, we're going to enslave ourselves. So there's a huge tug of war here that we need to educate and push forward out to the masses to understand the difference between the centralized blockchain systems and the decentralized ones that will be controlled by everybody except for the government having full central control over it.
Yeah, absolutely. This is really a lot about self-governance, folks. And I've said this a few times. I think it's a good talking point to bring up right now, is that you could use a blockchain if centralized to enslave humanity, and you could use the blockchain if decentralized to overthrow that which enslaves humanity. It's the same thing as a gun. You could use a gun to slaughter a whole bunch of innocent people, but you can use that same gun as a tool that it is to save all those innocent people from being slaughtered. This is an incredibly revolutionary market. This isn't going anywhere. The dip was much worse, by the way, in, 2013, 2014.
2015, it was a good time, actually. I bought low and sold high.
Yeah, and I love to see this volatility. It gives so much opportunity. And we saw, in February 2017, Bitcoin was at around $900 for one Bitcoin. To actually have this opportunity to get down to the bare minimums again is a dream come true to me. I can't tell you how much I've salivated over this. I've been waiting for this since December, since we saw the dip. I knew the dip was going to happen. I think most of us did, because like the dot-com bubble, we had a whole bunch of terrible, terrible cryptocurrencies pumping up the market that had huge market caps in the billions for no reason whatsoever, just people speculating, just like the dot-com bubble had mostly terrible dot-com companies with a few really good ones. The good ones survived, the good ones prevailed. This market is moving faster, and we will recover faster. However, in order to see success and prevalence, we must see it go down far before we will recover. We need to see this market take a hit. We need to see the bubble, the air get let out of the bubble completely before we have success in this market. So for those of you that are just in this to quickly make a few $1,000s, a few $1 million, well, folks, you've come to the wrong place in the year 2018, I'll tell you that much. But long term, we will see an end to the old guard system, the robber barons of the past, the people that live on their families' money, robbed and pillaged for centuries, being replaced with crypto anarchists, individualists, people that love freedom. Yeah, the banks are freaking out because this is a bank in your pocket, folks. Be safe, do your own due diligence. Don't blame the stupid crimes of, the online centralized exchanges on the cryptocurrencies themselves, just like you don't blame fiat for, all the problems of the banks, though, that makes more sense. Because of the fractional reserve system and everything. But anyway, oh man, this has been a crazy week. I'm so excited about it.
And it might be crazier, Josh. Might be crazier. We're looking at, look at what happened to the oil here in Canada. It was ridiculous. It dropped 55%, and then it jumped up again 30%. Like it's just insane. Now it's down again like 8% today. Most of the oil, like it's just insane what's happening in the market today. It's starting to smell and feel a lot like a crisis is coming, a big like the second wave of the depression, if you can call it. I call it the Greater Depression because it really hasn't been like an end to the recession because it was papered over and printed over by the central planners trying to prop it up. We are seeing a lot of troubles ahead, and as I was looking up for articles, Josh, today for our video, I was seeing probably like I would say at least 3 out of 5 articles was about the coming recession, or Goldman Sachs or anybody coming out saying to sell or get defensive. So better prepare yourself, because these banks are just, everybody's telling you to calm down. They just been up to now saying that you should get into the stock market, and that we were warning about that. We were telling people that be aware of what they've done throughout history here, even recent history, 2008, right? So we gotta understand this, and we gotta understand what the future is for cryptocurrencies, and that's what we're saying. You're gonna see a run for security, because that's what it is. Cryptology is great security as a monetary system as well, way better than the one we have today. But we do need to get to the point where people finally are starting to understand it, Josh.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is all about decentralization. This is all about preparation. This is all about diversification. This is all about being free and breaking free from this system. And it's not about making money, like I said. And I want to go through a few quick points here. All fiat currencies eventually revert to their true value of zero. They always have, they always will, going back to 1024 AD in China, and this time is no different. The banks are bankrupt, and for those that say Bitcoin is fiat, you don't know what fiat or Bitcoin is. Fiat is by law, the government forcing you under legal tender laws, and they force you into a system that comes, there's enforced usury, fractional reserve lending, quantitative easing. Yeah, absolutely. And Bitcoin is scarcity, application use, demand. It isn't managed by a country or government. It's not enforced by legal tender laws. There's no reason why they would do that, because that would not benefit them, because there's scarcity and they like being able to print. And on top of that, it's just the same basis that you see with gold and silver, which is why I like to talk about diversification of your wealth. Well, first of all, gold and silver and cryptocurrencies are great in your portfolio, but let's focus on the fact that this isn't all about capital gains, because capital gains isn't the only thing that's going to keep you safe here. Cash flow is very important too, and if you put all your eggs in one basket or the other, then you might have a bad time. You have to be self-sustainable, independent, free-thinking human being that's responsible, financially responsible, understands money, and understands how to prevail in this system, because the system wants you in debt, the system wants you in servitude, and they can't really push you into that basket when you are well diversified in real decentralized cryptocurrencies, gold and silver as wealth insurance, and then have some form of cash flow as well. That's very important. There's solutions to all of this, and one of these solutions is calming down and chilling out over this market. It's not the end, folks. It's just the beginning, and this week, this dip is a sign that it's just the beginning. You can call me delusional all you want. Come back to me in a year and tell me how delusional I was, because I think most of us saw this coming, this massive boom and bust for quite some time in crypto. It had to happen eventually. The rally had to happen. The fall had to happen eventually. Because this is real technology that's really changing things and shaking things up. And of course, the government and the banks and all that will try to get tied into cryptocurrencies to save their own butts, folks. Why wouldn't you? They're doing the same thing with gold and silver too. So, John, as we close this off, there's a lot to be thankful for this Thanksgiving here in the United States. I know it's Thanksgiving was a little while ago for you up north, but nonetheless, we have a lot to be thankful for, and it's not all about just waiting to make a bunch of money quick. What do you think, John?
No, I think we need to be grateful for everything that we have in our lives, and not be so greedy. Be a little bit less greedy. That might be good during this Thanksgiving season, to contemplate that and have some gratitude about where you are in life currently. I think what you need to get done, when you have time to sit down, like, this is the time to be financially educated and not get emotionally attached to your money or to your assets, because it could be a vicious ride if you are. And I've seen so many people getting burned terribly by being emotionally attached, buying at the higher highs or selling at the lows. So this is the time to be financially educated, get out there and understand what you're investing in, and then you will thrive throughout the chaos that's going to ensue when this whole bankster built system is coming down, because it definitely will, Josh.
Absolutely. All I can say is he's right. We need to work hard on ourselves. We need to better ourselves. We can't look to just making money over an idea whose time has come, a revolutionary idea at that. We must look to the future of what this technology may bring and what it can change, and master that on the free market and not allow governments to manipulate and destroy things that we are setting out to create. And you know what? We always win. The free market always wins because it's more efficient and individual demand always reigns over top of the government, even if
it's not run by the state.
Yeah, even if for the short amount of time the government screws us up, long term they will always fail. Good always triumphs over evil long term. So folks, be happy for what you have. Work on yourself. Be responsible. Educate yourself. You will be bulletproof before long. Thanks for going into this with us, John. Decentralize everything. Rule yourself, folks. This is Josh Sigurdson and John Sneisen signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth.
Be the change.
Like what you see here, OM? Don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We can't do it without you. Any donation is very much appreciated, especially as we are so vastly demonetized and censored on YouTube, as these guys come in and flag all of our content as hate speech. Also, check out our Bitcoin address below as well as on the screen for you to scan if you please. And also check us out at steemit.com. We're at Josh Sigurdson. It's a future of social media where you get paid in the upvote of your post in cryptocurrency. Steem, that is. So make sure to check us out there. Make sure to join us at Anarchapulco 2019 with people like Ron Paul, G. Edward Griffin, of course, Jeff Berwick, Vid Jedlicka. So many incredible speakers are going to be speaking. It's just a massively growing event. It is something you have to see to believe. So make sure to check it out below and save money on your tickets by using promo code WAM, that's WAM, and I hope to see you there. Also, check out our newsletter as we are getting demonetized and censored and all that. We don't know what comes next, so we have an email, worldalternativemedia@gmail.com. Send us an email with subject line YES, YES, and we will include you in the newsletter where we will continuously keep you updated. So until next time, thanks for watching, everyone. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.